We live. What it do, man? It's your boy Jug with WDH TV. We back with Lashonda Moore and Marlon Moore from American Greed. They was in court last week. They want to give some updates on what happened in court and the things they want y'all to look out for. And we're gonna get on the floor and let them see what's going on. Lashonda?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours.
You may have to translate for me just a little bit.
Oh,
Tell them I said the
okay.
floor is hers to tell them how it went in court last week and, what they want them to
The
look
floor,
out
the floor is yours.
Okay, well, we're back. Last time we talked, we were in the middle of trial. Trial has come to a close now. We were convicted of all 9 counts. I guess I can give you guys a little bit of a rundown of some of the things that have happened up until this point, including some of the things that happened in trial. I'm hoping that my husband is going to be able to join the detention center that they're holding us at right now. They're going through a transfer when it comes to the phone, so he's not able to access his phone the same way that I am at this particular time. So it's going to just be me for today.
Okay.
That we didn't really get to go into last time were things that I'm going to try my best to cover today. I guess I kind of want to start off with the judge. When we started filing paperwork back in February of last year, it was all us learning about the truth when it comes to the law. There is a private side and a public side of how this stuff is supposed to happen. And we started filing certain things and sending it to every single government entity you can think of. We have put notices on the record with the court. We sent things to the DOJ, the OIG, AIG, Texas Attorney General, United States Attorney General, Texas Secretary, United States Secretary, the Supreme Court, you name it, things have been filed, they have been sent. It seems like every single time we file something, the court takes that as disrespect, which led up to September 30th of 2025 when we initially went to court, and that was supposed to have been a sentencing. Well, we had rescinded our signatures on a plea that we were coerced into signing back in January. Due to the fact that we had rescinded our signatures, there should have never been a sentencing. However, they brought us in for sentencing in September, and that's when the judge decided, based off of the disrespect that we were showing to the court, he wanted to throw the plea out. Now, keep in mind, prior to him making the decision to throw the plea out, he listened to Victim's statement. As soon as he decided to listen to Victim's statement, he's now a biased judge. He threatened us with the trial during that sentencing just because he wanted to give us more time. According to 28 U.S.C. 455A, that's supposed to be a mandatory refusal. There is impartiality that he no longer has. He is no longer a neutral adjudicator in this case. That alone is a defect that should have had been thrown out. It's a serious risk of him being biased. All throughout the trial, there were so many different things where you could tell he was always leaning towards the side of the prosecutor.
Yeah.
When it came down to things such as the jury instructions, the entire trial was pretty much them talking about a Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme. Not one of my indictments had anything or said anything about a Ponzi or a pyramid. Why? There is no federal statute for a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme. That is a crime. I'm in federal court. And what they tried to do, or what they did, was they tainted the jury and even was allowed to put something in the jury instructions about pyramid and Ponzi schemes when I was not brought to court for a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme. They put things all over the news. They put things all over social media. Things are back trending in blogs again. But the thing that no one wants to talk about is the fact that so many different defects in constitutional rights have well as our due process, has been violated from the beginning of this indictment up until today. I want to go over some of those things, and I think that before I start talking about some of the defects, my husband and I did an interview last night, and I think it's very important that I backtrack a little bit and go back to a statement that my husband made. There is no denial that there are individuals that did lose money in this process, and for that, we are both very sorry, but it was never anything that was intentional from me or from my husband. We've always just tried to do our best to make things right, to fix things, and it seems like, we didn't know what we didn't know, and the more we tried to fix, something else would fall apart somewhere else. But throughout this whole process, there was never a time when me, my husband, any of my family and friends, or anybody that even worked on the admin team came together and said, we're doing something intentionally to hurt anybody.
Yes.
Next thing that I kind of want to talk about is some of the things that happened during trial. So the very first lady that they put on the stand is a woman named Donna Patterson. She's an individual that came in to our group. She claimed that she lost a total of $30,000, $20,000 in our group, $10,000 in two other groups after she left our group. And all of this was said on the stand. She's actually a government employee because she works for ICE, which is kind of a conflict of interest because you work for the government and you're now on the stand for the government claiming to be a victim, and you were working for the government even at the time that this whole thing occurred. She's very decorated. She has, a master's degree, a bachelor's degree. She's a retired colonel. Never one time did she ever have to prove to the government that she did not get paid inside of our group. As a matter of fact, the government private investigator got on the stand and spoke about, how they did all of this, these search warrants on me and Dre's emails, search warrants on our text messages. They had every single thing from us. And the private investigator got on the stand and they asked, okay, so out of all the money that the Moores collected, there were refunds that were issued. And they said yes, there was money that was sent back, and the answer to that also was yes. Do you know how much the Moores sent back out in refunds? Oh, no, we don't know that number. So the private investigator for the government didn't know the numbers because they didn't care to look at it. Not only that, there's a company called Stout. And Stout put a witness on the stand as well. I think that lady's name was like Mary Lee Robinson from the company Stout. And she got on to talk about how the government pays her $300 an hour, and whenever she has to testify, it's $350 an hour. As of November, I have 1 minute left. Looks like I have to call right back, and I'll finish that. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a little bit of what happened in court last week, and she giving an update on some of the people that testified and just some of the things that the government did that they feel the government did to violate their rights, and they just didn't feel like they got a fair trial, or even the evidence was looked over properly. But I'm gonna ask her when she come back. Well, maybe at the end. Maybe one of their lawyers should have subpoenaed that lady's bank records, because if they made payments back and she understand line saying she took a loss, that need to be called out. That need to be called out. So yeah, this is Lashonda Moore, wife to Marlon Moore. They're a couple from Dallas, Texas. And if you've been following the story, you kind of know who they are and their background. Marlon used to be a DJ for 106 Park. And I'm not too familiar with Lashonda's background, but that's something I learned about Marlon. And doing these interviews and doing my research on them and the case. So yeah.
Hey, we're back.
We still rolling. I was talking to the audience, just keeping them entertained while you was getting situated. You was talking about
He was talking.
the decorated the government employee who testified.
Oh, so they had a lady with a stand. Her name was, if I'm not mistaken, Mary Lee Robinson. She works for a consulting company called South that is they contract with the government. And let me just give you a couple figures. Um, she makes $300 an hour, $350 an hour whenever she is doing testimony on the stand. This trial was going on, as we know, last week, which makes it January of 2026. They said on the stand as of November 2025, her company at that time had made $58,000 just to do, all of this analysis of me and Dre's bank records. And even with that, you got to think about in November 2025, she made $58,000 just to go over records. How much money had she made by the time she was on the stand? And the money was still rolling because she's being paid $350 an hour to be on the stand. And this came out when the prosecution was talking to her. They thought that they were getting ahead by, let's just put it out. Yes, we're paying her. We paid her a lot of money. Let's just round and say total, the government paid her company $70,000 to analyze bank records. You mean to tell me out of all that analyzation, you guys did not know how much money we paid in refunds, how many refunds we issued? And when the question was asked to Mary Lee Robinson, that works for the consulting company South, and for the government's own private investigator, she's a United States Postal Service investigator, neither one of them had the answer to that. And when they asked why, well, that's not what we were there to look for. But you do acknowledge that refunds were given. I guess it would have been too much for them to have looked at the bank statements for the actual business and see that on more than one occasion, a five-figure refund was given to individuals. That's the part of the story that's not being talked about. We're also going to talk about what the refund process actually looks like. Let's go back to Donna Patterson, who also admits that the paybitscam.com, she started that, she created that. She also admitted that her way of getting into the group was by the refund process. There's 3 different positions that you could have been in on a board. In the very bottom position, she herself did not come in on that position. Someone else wanted to leave the group. They contact us, me, my husband, or most of the time someone on the admin team. We would always post in the group, hey, we got spots for sale. Those spots, became available. We would just post the person that wanted a refund or wanted to leave, and whoever wanted to take that spot, sent their money directly to that person. Donna Patterson herself, all of the spots that she had came from her buying someone else out that wanted a refund. But yet everyone is saying that there was a refund process. Hello, this is a prepaid collect.
Hold.
I think we might got a Dre calling in, or at least somebody.
We're here. There's Dre.
What's up, Dre?
Here. Hey, honey, we've already started the interview, kind of going over a couple different things. In fact, we're talking about Donna Patterson. I think one of the next things that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about was another witness that they put on the stand whose name was Jared Minnis. Now, we had noticed this a couple of days prior to the trial starting, that they had an affidavit put it as evidence for Ms. Minnis, where she herself says that in total, between connection fees and what she paid for a spot, she lost $1,700. Now, back in September, when they brought me and my husband in to try to sentence us at that time, there was this new exhibit called Exhibit A that is sealed, which means the public, no one's allowed to see it due to the confidentiality of personal information. The government has changed the number of victims from 8,000 to now 12,000. And with these 12,000 people whose names is on this list, you have a name, you have an email, you have a loss amount, and you have a physical address. I'm I'm allowed to see this document as long as I'm in the presence of an attorney. So I'm going through this list and I'm looking, and I noticed once I learned that she was one of the witnesses, this is a document that the government has manufactured. They have the same witness, and they say the loss amount is $3,055. Not only does her affidavit say $1,700, but even on the stand, she said that she lost $1,700. Now, this loss amount of how much money we supposedly took has changed 4 or 5 different times over the past 5 years since this whole thing has been going on. The original loss amount, whenever we had the Texas Attorney General come after us, was $30 million. Then it went to $40 million. During mediation for the civil side, it went down to 25, then to 10. And for the past couple of years, the number has always just been 9 million, 9 million, 9 million. Based off of this manufactured document that the government put into evidence back at the end of September 2025, the new number is now $4.3 million. But even that $4.3 million figure is due to having a bunch of random names. And so I sat and I said, let me start looking at some of these names. I'll probably circle within the 10 minutes that I got to spend with the document over 200 or 300 names of people that I know for a fact the government has not talked to. These people have not told you that they lost money. They have my mom's name on there, my dad, my sister. They have minors on this list. Some of these minors are the children of my cousins. You don't even know that that's not even a real person that you can talk to because they're only 6 or they're only 5. One of the gentlemen who was the best man at my wedding, his daughter participated in the group. She's 13. Well, she's 12 now, 12 or 13. You haven't talked to her. So the government is allowed to manufacture these lists and numbers and names. And even with that manufactured list, you had at $4.3 million, that's not even accurate.
Yeah, some of the people drop off if you go actually talk to them.
You're allowed to make different things up. The government's own United States Postal Service worker who was a private investigator said herself, I have the entire power of the government behind me. I can do whatever I want. I can get any search warrant that I want. And she also said on the stand, any individual who put money into this group and got money back is not a victim. And the next question that was asked to her was, well, did you verify that every person that participated with us lost money? Oh, no, that would have took too much manpower. No. We're not saying every single person. Just the people that you put on the stand. We're talking about 4. Just the 4 people that you brought to court. Did you make them prove that they didn't actually? You're saying anyone who did get paid is a victim? No, I did not. And Ms. Donna Patterson herself said to a de facto attorney that she's willing to give her bank statements and everything to prove she never got paid. To this day, she still has not turned that information in. To this day, she still hasn't turned that in.
Why didn't your lawyer subpoena it? Or were they just lackluster in doing their thing?
This information is information that came out during the trial. But the de facto attorney did ask her, would you be willing to give your statement to my private investigator today? This is day 1. This is Monday of last week, and she said yes. They contacted her. I think she picked up maybe the first or second time, and now she won't even answer the phone. So I thought she was so willing to prove that you actually lost money. What person joins a group that loses $20,000, leaves that group, and then goes and joins 2 more groups? And she admitted this on the stand. She joined 2 more groups. One of those groups that she joined, she herself was an administrator for, which means she facilitated. They showed her pictures of a text message where she's telling the founder of another group called Staff that was run by a lady named Karen Bates. She's facilitating, telling her split boards, XYZ, whatever the numbers of those boards were. Total number of boards that she was instructing someone else to split was 112. She got on that stand and lied and said, I was never a facilitator. I was never an administrator for any other group. But you're allowed to get on this stand and condemn what we're doing. One of the other witnesses that they put on the stand admitted, no, Susus and Blessed Loaf, they're good. I've seen them work. They're a good thing. This one just didn't work. I just don't like Lashonda. I just don't like Marlon. But I do know that they work. I do know that they're a good thing when people work together. I do know that this is something that could be beneficial for the community. What if their own witnesses said that it was stand?
Wow. So these groups are pretty around, pretty normal, from what it sounds like. Which I've actually heard of them, but not, these, not the blessing kind or whatever you have. But I've heard of groups like that. I was actually propositioned recently to join one. But it was more of an insurance thing or something like that. So yeah. Y'all
Did you
there?
hear what y'all hear what he said?
What's up, Drake?
Hey, he's saying what's up to you to Dre as well, but he's saying are these groups pretty normal? He was asking about that. He said he was recently asked to join one recently himself. So
I'm saying they're pretty common. They're pretty common. It's not like unheard of, few and far between type of deal.
Can you repeat what you said, Sandra?
he just said they're pretty common. The groups are pretty common, huh?
Oh yeah, these things have. We were invited to one before we even started this, and that's how we got introduced to one of my wife's friends introduced her to one.
Get him a little closer to the mic.
Work.
Oh, you're gonna have to speak up. Speak up, Dre. Speak up. Speak up.
Yeah, I told her, to go ahead and see how it works and see if it worked for her. And once it worked for her, I was all in. So she put in her 1,400. It was a group called Multiply Blessings. Once I seen it work for her, I was all in. I put in my 1,400 into the group, and within 2 to 3 weeks, I was blessed out. And then we started seeing that we just did it over and over again. Until that group said, "Hey, you guys are getting too big, too much to handle. You guys are gonna have to break off and do your own group." So we were basically forced out of that group and forced into having our own boards in our own group. So
Yeah.
we didn't know what we were getting into all the way. We just thought it was a great opportunity. It worked for us. It worked for others around us. And so, we had to pick up where they left off.
And address, if you don't mind, one of y'all to address the predatory side that the government and the headlines continue to say that you guys are preaching pyramid, based on what you just said, how you all actually were having a split, and it wasn't like something you were starting from scratch.
Yeah, I've seen multiple headlines talking about we're preaching pyramids and things like that. Our group, like I said, we joined a group called Multiply Blessings at first. We had no idea that we were going to be forced to split off into our own group when we joined that group. By that time, we had, who knows, like 30 or 40 people. Who knows how many people we had. We have 1 minute left. Into that group. So we had all those. The caller has hung up.
That was Dre?
That were in that group.
Oh,
And we kept on going. We never knew or preached anything about blessing looms or pyramids or anything like that. We didn't know that is what they were called. We thought this was called a susu. And that's what we were told in the presentations for Multiply Blessings. When we look up susu, you see things that are under susu that, like she said, they work. So many other communities and other cultures use these things as
Hold on, I'm letting Shonda join. Hold on.
hello.
yeah. So yeah, that's Drake giving a little background on how they got involved into the groups, how it was introduced to them. Uh, they joined the group. They were blessed out. I think their investment got too big for the people to handle, and they said, "Why don't you start your own group? You've outgrown us." So yeah, just to get some understanding, these groups are common. It's not like you know
We're
They the
back.
first to do it or the last. Hello?
Okay, Dre. Dre.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up, speak up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What did he say, Sandra?
No, you could continue what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. So when we were forced into this group, and forced out of the group, we didn't know what we didn't know. We just knew that this was something that worked for the ones that we invited. I knew it was something that worked for my wife. I knew it was something that worked for her friends that invited her, and we just went off that success. At any time, if we knew that this thing was going to crumble, we wouldn't have even started it. We wouldn't even gotten involved. Um, so there was no way that we were preaching anything. We were just going off what we seen work for us and work for others.
Yeah.
Everything that we seen with regard to Susu, it was all good, positive things. It worked for others. It's a way for communities and cultures to build wealth and to, get ahead, and to help others. That's the whole reason why we did this. This was to help others.
At any time, did the feds ask y'all about the other groups? Were they interested in the other groups?
Oh, he has a question. He has a question for y'all, Dre. He has a question. He's asking a question.
I say at any point in time, were the feds interested in any other groups? Did they ask y'all about any of those other groups that exist?
Did you hear the question?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They could care less about other groups. They know for a fact that there were other groups. Connect itself started doing some things behind our back, which that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But inside of Connect Me, the founder and owner of Connect Me started doing his presentations to other groups and selling his software to other groups. To date, none of those groups have been prosecuted, investigated. Today, owner of Connect Me, not prosecuted. And a
Yeah,
lot
that
of
was
the
another
money that they're
question. So y'all had no
raised,
co-defendants? It's just y'all?
how we spent the money came from Connect Me, but Connect Me themselves, it's not being dirty money that they got.
He has a
Yeah, that don't
question,
make no
Lashonda.
sense. If y'all saying the money dirty, that mean they gotta be, they money should be seized or something as well. You're right. So y'all had no co-defendants. It was just y'all two alone. Y'all like the Lone Rangers.
Y'all had no co-defendant. He's saying y'all were like the Lone Rangers.
Yeah, for the most part. And I want to make sure that I'm clear. My goal is not to get Nehemiah in trouble. My goal is it's not going to make me happy to see him get investigated. It's not what I want because I do understand that even if it's something that they chose to do, I personally, from going through this experience, I know what they would do to him and how they wouldn't play fair. I want to make sure that I say this as well. All of the filings to date that my husband and I have put on the record with this, if you go to Pacer, which is something any and everybody can do, if you look at the docket, you'll see where we have filed certain things, and those things are missing off of the record. Thank you for using. The caller has hung up. Thank you for using Securus. Are missing off the record. The court's intention is never to give anybody a fair shake. Courts fear records more than they do arguments in court.
Yes.
They also fear you calm. They want you to get crazy. Every single time my husband and I have ever been in court, they forced us into a pro se. We never declared to be pro se. Then they gave us standby attorneys. Then they forced the standby attorneys on us in the second Beretta hearing. The first Beretta hearing forced us pro se. Second Beretta hearing forced the standby attorneys to be
Hold on,
attorneys because they
Drake.
say that the way that we talk in the court and the things that we say is disrespectful.
Yeah, so she said all their paperwork can be accessed at Pacer. I think it's pacer.org or something like that. And they say every court filing they made in regards to the case can be looked up, traced. It's a docket for it, she said. because everything, yeah, all your emotions, you can get its own
Okay.
court date.
Was to this day, every time we've ever filed something, every time we ever do something to fight for ourselves, the factual attorneys as well as the judge, they constantly tell us you're pissing off the court, you're disrespecting the court. Even since this trial has happened, we've had individuals contact my mother-in-law, tell her that they better stop filing stuff. It's just pissing the judge off even more. He's going to come down even harder on them during sentencing. We were threatened before we walked into the sentencing in September. Y'all over there saying this, and this. They just gonna force y'all to go to court, and y'all are looking at 35 to life. Y'all are looking at 35 to life. Not all of our affidavits missing off the record right now, because like I said, court fear records more than arguments. Every single time we've ever been in that courtroom and we just asserted, hey, I'm standing by my all rights reserved. I have uncontested affidavits on file that stand as summary judgment. I choose not to participate. With all due respect, Your Honor, with all due respect to the court, they fear calm and they want you to get crazy. Courts do not need to be fair in order to convict you. They only need three things. They need to be procedurally insulated, that's one. Two, minimally compliant on paper. And three, they need to be protected from external scrutiny at the right moment. And that's just what we're not going to take anymore. We have been coerced and threatened and intimidated into silence for 5 years. The goal is not to continue to let these bad actors pretend like they're good. That's not what the goal is anymore. The goal is to change the environment around them so that the system can no longer get away with what they've been getting away with. Because when the truth is spoken, nobody cares about the truth. It's not about what the truth is. It's about what you can prove in court. And they put so many different restraints around what you can say, what you can't say, what you can do, what you can't do. They do everything that they can to take away your ability to prove your innocence. Like I said, a Ponzi is not a federal crime. You know, it was off the limits for the attorneys to say the Ponzi and the pyramid is not a federal crime. It was off limits for them to say that in court. But they were allowed to put something about pyramid and Ponzi in the jury instructions. They were allowed to say in court, they broke the state crime, but we're not in state court. How is it fair for you to call a pyramid and a Ponzi a state crime in federal court, and we can't say that it's not a federal crime in federal court?
Yeah,
Tell me.
Make it be fair. You have any questions, Mike?
no, I'm just listening. I'm following well. I keep the audience abreast as they go. Damn, I did have one question. I can't think of it right now. Just let I keep going and it'll come back to me.
Okay.
So, okay, I do got a question. What are y'all trying to accomplish with the broadcast? And what is the message we trying to get out to the public in regards to this case? Y'all got sentencing coming up soon. So what is the message we trying to get out in terms of doing these
What's
broadcasts? What's the purpose? I mean, I know
the
y'all want to be
purpose and
free,
the
but I mean, I think y'all gonna be okay in the high. Of course, me personally, just because they did so much wrong, if everything y'all saying is accurate, they did so much wrong. There's no way y'all won't get out on appeal or at least get time cuts and resentences and reconsiderations. But
yeah.
what do y'all want to get out
But
to the
you all,
public? What is y'all
what do you all
objective
want?
at this point?
What's your objective, and what do you want to get out to the public when you're doing these interviews and these broadcasts? And whoever wants to go first with that.
I think the objective for us is, one, just to get the truth out. Like she said, it's been over 5 years now that we've been silent on this. We've been, told to stay quiet and don't talk to anyone about this. Now is the time for us to really get out the truth, what really happened, how the courts are railroading us to make sure that, they get I feel like this is a political move for them. They want to make it seem like, oh, we're looking out for thousands of black people by putting these two away. And even when we had the civil case and we were going through litigation or mediation for the civil settlement, one of the but we put it out there so big and so bad that we have to get something out of it. We have to continue with, because you guys have already been on American Greed. We've already made this big deal out of it. Even though you guys didn't do what we said you guys did, we still have to make it seem like we're doing our job. So for me, like I said, one is the truth, just to get that out there. And two is also, just to make sure that other people know, before you get in anything, make sure you do all your research. Make sure you're doing your due diligence when it comes to, when opportunities are brought to you. Make sure that exactly what you're getting into when either friends or family or someone from outside brings you opportunities. This is a simple mistake that has changed our lives. Just from getting involved in something like this. If we would have known that it would amount to this later on, years later, this is something we never would have gotten into.
Yeah.
So, just be careful when, people approach you with business deals and opportunities. Make sure you look into them thoroughly. And, just make sure you protect yourself at all times. We regret that other people have been hurt in this situation. We know that, this is something that just grew big too fast, too big too fast. And so,
Yeah.
we just want to make sure that, no one else ends up in a situation like this where you have to fight for your life against the federal government, because they don't play fair. And the
No,
truth of the matter is them.
they don't. They don't. Do y'all have any last words before we end it? Lashonda, you got anything you want to end with?
Just to add to what my husband said and not to repeat anything, everything that he said is absolutely true. I also want to make sure that individuals are aware that no matter what crime a person is supposedly said to have committed or not committed, do not always listen to the media. I feel like I'm kind of, kicking myself about that, because I used to be one of those people. If the feds are after them, then they must have did it. If it's in the news, it must have happened the way the news said that it happened. The government is in bed with the news. And I know Trump may not be everybody's favorite person, but now that I myself am in this situation, I understand some of the things that he said about when they came after him, how they can twist things and how they can make things look a certain way. There's so many defects and so many violations that have happened to us. They coerce witnesses after they have been sworn in on the stand, like Nehemiah, who would have gotten up there and cleared up a lot of things, for us. 18 USC 1512 was violated. No one, wants to talk about tampering with the witness. No one wants to talk about the fact that we have to tell the government the truth because they had records of the truth. That's another conversation as well. My husband found records that they had and they chose to omit and suppress. That's the Brady Rule being violated. Our 6th Amendment right being violated. Our 14th Amendment right being violated. 42 USC 1983 being violated. These are the things that no one's talking about. If a person has committed a crime, a fair trial, due process, and constitutional rights, those are things that should not be violated, regardless of what you think a person has done, regardless if you like that individual or not. There's just a certain way that these should be handled. And I have 1 minute left.
Didn't the judge give special instructions to the jury about they not having the evidence to prove this?
He has a question for y'all real quick too. What's the question?
About the instructions he gave to the jury for deliberation about not having evidence. Tell him to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, the part that he gave to the jury about the evidence part. Can y'all elaborate on that real quick?
I'm sorry. Say it again, Sandra.
We may have to do that when Shonda joins back because she's going to call in when you start answering. But he's asking about the jury instructions regarding the lack of evidence.
Got you.
Yeah, speak a little bit about that, about them giving the special instructions to the jury about they won't have the evidence to prove this case, but trust the witnesses or something to that effect. Yeah, so somebody I know was in trial with him this weekend. And the judge told the jury, we don't got the evidence, but just believe what the witnesses are telling you, or take something to that effect. They're going to elaborate on it a little bit.
Okay, we're back.
So he asked about the jury instructions and the evidence that they basically omitted. As far as the records that they needed from the witnesses weren't required to give any evidence. So basically, any stranger off the street could have basically came in and testified on the witness stand and said that they were a part of it, or they lost money, or that they participated and didn't receive money. So for a witness to be able to just come off the street, doesn't have to prove anything, that's scary, right? Because anyone technically that has even remotely heard the story or has been in any other type of group could have came and testified on that witness stand last week and saying that they were a part of it. The government didn't make any witness provide documents. They didn't even ask. When the defective attorney asked them, did the government even ask you for records? They said no. So that lets you know that the truth was not there. That's not what they were after. They didn't even ask them for any type of records, but they had all the power of the United States government behind them to get those records. They had subpoenas, they had search warrants, but not only that, just the simple thing of just asking for those records, they didn't do that.
Why did
So
your lawyer ask for them? Or
what they
Lashonda
were
lawyer?
going after is the conviction. It wasn't after the truth.
He has a question. What's your question, Mike?
Why didn't they lawyers request the documents and subpoena? I mean, they got the same power as the prosecutors in terms of witnesses.
Yeah, what about your attorneys? He's asking about your attorneys.
Why didn't they
You
ask
may
for
want
them
to give.
about the documents? If we
You may
know and they
ask for
missed
those.
them,
You said why did our attorneys ask for any proof?
Yeah,
yes.
maybe give some rundown of what your attorneys they were hired by the who they were hired by.
Right. So they were court appointed attorneys. As you know, we were appointed those attorneys. We didn't ask for these attorneys. These attorneys were forced on us.
Yeah.
And once they had the knowledge of who um, was on the witness stand, on the witness list, when they got up there, they asked them. They said, "Okay, could you provide us any documentation, any type of records?" And Donna Patterson said, "Yeah, I will." And I believe my wife said earlier that the private investigator called her a couple times. She didn't respond after one or two times after saying that she would. And then we also received documentation that Donna Patterson was an administrator in another group. So if she's an administrator in another group, 9 times out of 10, she probably got blessed out from that group that she was in that branched off from that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the attorneys definitely asked them for records, but they never received them.
Okay. But yeah, man, that's part two of the Lashonda and Marlon mega trial. Uh, I'm gonna put this out, man. Y'all been getting a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, a lot of views. They interested in y'all story, so I want to do a part two so we can get some more information out. Being that was pre-trial and this is a post-trial broadcast. Y'all keep y'all head
Do
up.
you from the comments? Do you want to ask a couple questions from any comments that they were asking or stating in your comments there, Mike, from your other posting when they call back?
Yeah, I got to get off at 8:30. We can do that on the next
Okay.
one. Yeah, we can do that on the next
Okay. Good deal.
one. Tell them
Thanks
I
for
appreciate.
having everyone.
No problem. No
Caller has
problem. This won't be the last time. Like I say, it didn't grown legs, and I'm invested. So let's rock out.
Yeah.
At least until they sentencing, we can get the awareness out until they sentencing or what have you. Just go from there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, mama.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye bye.
Thank
go.
It's never too late for an uncovered gem.